Hey there, YouTube friends, Mass Bandit here. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. I really do appreciate it. If you're new around here, or if you haven't yet, please consider subscribing. And if you're excited for Surfside Pleasure Pier, go ahead and hit the like button. Really helps out the channel. You know the drill. We are back in another episode of Surfside Pleasure Pier. It's like I just said that or something. Sorry, I'm a little caffeinated right now. And also, I'm super excited. I'm wearing contacts for the first time in months today. And so it's like looking at the screen to do this voiceover is a little bit of a challenge. But that's not what you're here to learn about. You're here to see about what's going on the screen. So what we're doing today is a bit of a all over the place. But we're going to start with some backstage details to the Bubba Gumps. One of the super jank things that I actually really enjoyed was this concrete ramp that led to behind Bubba Gumps. It's obviously the loading ramp, I guess. I guess it's a loading ramp. And it's super jank, and the only thing to keep you from going in is this little gate. So, and it's got curbs on the side. I just thought it was really weird. So I thought, of course we're going to add that. Why wouldn't we? So starting here, and actually these adventure pieces I think work really, really well for this because they're just small enough, but they've got that nice little curved edge. If you have adventure DLC and you really haven't explored it much outside of its intended purposes, like I didn't for the longest time use very much of that DLC because I couldn't find anything to do with it. But a lot of the guys on Bro Nation, they've started using it for all kinds of things. Well, like as you can see, they make really good curbs. And the concrete wall pieces that aren't conformed to the grid, love that. I love that they're not conformed to the grid. I think it's great. So we use them here. And then I told you in the last episode that there's actually a seating area up here that faces this ramp, which again I thought was pretty janky. So I had to add it. And I love that it was basically a cutout of the building. To be honest with you, I didn't look at any reference images for this, or not recent. Like I looked at it to be like, oh, there is something there, but I didn't do any deep study. I didn't do any deep studying of it. So I know it's a cutout. I know it looks like, you know, they cut out of the box. So that's kind of how I went with it and just kind of rolled with it. It's pretty narrow, but I don't want to go any further back because then you start exposing the Bubba Gump logo. So this is about as far as I can go with it. So it's a little small, but it'll have to work for now. So got the don't die fencing, you know, the standards. And there's really not much to it. This was a pretty easy piece to put together here. So copying some of the windows over, always try to do that. Once you've established the style of the building, it's easier just to take pieces from it rather than try and come up with new ideas. I mean, you wouldn't see that on a building anyway. Throwing in the door and then making sure the windows and the door line up in a reasonable manner. Now that I'm looking at it, these windows, they're kind of to me, but I'm kind of like whatever. So here I wanted to put in a little like do not cross, but it's so narrow up here that I don't know if they'd actually have that because they need all the space they can get to get the trucks by. But I figured try and keep the workers safe as they're coming out here to load and unload and stuff like that. That'd be a good thing to do. How about this truck that's a what is it? Billboard. I think that's really cool. I didn't know that. At the very, very beginning of the episode, I was trying to like nest signs in, and then something happened. I'm like, oh, it's a billboard, so let's just throw the Bubba Gump, and I actually like the Bubba Gump logo on that truck. I think it works really, really well. So, and some simple fencing to block everyone's view, and here's that jank gate. We're gonna call it jank gate, and just swinging it wide open so everyone can get in. I do think I actually end up with it closed. Tried to put some wheels on it using hashtag snowman pipe, but it didn't happen. So, meh, what are you gonna do? Bring in the fences up to meet those. I actually had the fences a little short. There we go. We closed the gate. I think it looks better closed. I might try to create a little like warning sign, like a red and white, you know, just to give the idea of a warning sign. Now, to be frank, I'm not sure 2 of those trucks would fit up there, but they fit up there now, so it's good enough for me. Then continuing in our backstage area here, we're now behind the ticket booths. And I decided this random building that didn't have a purpose, it would make a perfect storage shed. So we're going to do kind of like that, like a garage door, like a fold-up door. And I'm going to pop in some of Ruble Trillion's, pretty sure it's Ruble Trillion's little carts that he made long time ago. I still think they're great for, and I think this would be perfect because they're small. They can get through tight spaces. I think it would work really well for the pier. So we plop one in there to kind of give the hint that there is more stuff in that shed without actually having to put more stuff in the shed. I figured if the truck was going to come out, it would need a double gate. So we have a double gate here that we're working on. Just it's a matter of mirroring what we already have. Pretty easy. And filling in the rest. And so now you can see we have a pretty clearly defined backstage area, which actually really, really helped with the next part of the build, which is coming up in just a second. The paths in this episode, you're going to see throughout the episode, give me kind of a struggle because they're built up in the air and I have the roof line over them, or the flat roofs over them. It makes it really hard to do things with paths. So I'm starting to find some techniques that work well, so it doesn't take me days to do anything. I decided to call the coaster Comet. I figured that's super simple. Most of these older coasters are named simple. I didn't want anything too on the nose. Like I didn't want Cyclone. I didn't want Cannonball, or I don't know. So I thought Comet would be good. I'm sure there's a bunch named Comet, but so what? And then I went ahead and put Surfside on the lift hill because my thought was if you're driving down that road to the pier, you're gonna see that coaster, and I wanted the name of the pier to be nice and bright. So after we do that, that's all we do with the coaster this episode. I wanted to go ahead and start working on the very first outdoor, or the quick service. QSR, quick service restaurant, so a walk-up restaurant. That's from my pictures that I found. That's pretty common. It's pretty standard. So it's going to have 4 vendors, 2 on each side. I think it's hot dogs and burgers and soda and water. Your standard stuff, using that clapboard. As always, it seems to be that's what we're going to be using most. So that's pretty good. Again, my references here were a lot of things people have already made in Planet Coaster, and then just kind of trying to emulate their styles a little bit. Here's some of that pathwork awfulness. It's a pain. It's such a pain, but it's okay. What are you gonna do? Anyway, sorry, I just had a notification pop up and it totally distracted me. I had a really hard time getting both vendors to attach to the there we go, attached to the paths. But once I got it, it kind of came together. So I wanted it to be in scale, nice and tight, nice and small. This is actually too big. I realized that this was going to be really hard to put a roof on if it was like 1 1/3 grid pieces. And God, you could see how huge. I know we mention it all the time, but those spires, it's so disappointing that they're so huge. There's really only 2 or 3 that I can use unless I'm building something massive. So I'm afraid that those domes are going to get overused really quick. We've got them kind of all over the entrance already, and I like them, but I'm afraid that we're going to get tired of seeing them. Like, they're going to just kind of get old. So, but you can see a nice, easy little overhang here. And then we're adding some mansard roofs, which is pretty standard, I think. I want to use these kinds of roofs more than custom roofs whenever possible, just to save on time and to save on piece count. So, that's kind of what it is, how it is here. What I was smart enough to do in this building actually was build one wall and then just copy it over. So that also saved me a lot of time. I have never used those techniques. I haven't up until this project, at least not very frequently. And I always end up wasting way more time than I need to. Try and save yourself some time. Try and copy and paste what you can whenever you're using gridded buildings like this. It makes it so much easier. These weird wooden trims, don't worry, they don't last. I don't like them. They go away right quick. We're dropping the little overhang. This is an easy way to make the building come into scale. One of the things that a lot of people one of the issues a lot of people have with scale is that they just use the default 4 meter buildings. They don't even think about it. Like, that's 12 feet. That's really tall. It's much better if you can do things on kind of a 3 meter scale. So without having 3-meter walls, it makes it a challenge. So what you got to do is visually trick your eyeball. And so that's why we have that overhang so low. It's about 3 meters high. It's plenty high for people to get in and order stuff. But it just kind of brings the whole building back down to a reasonable scale. So if you're struggling with that, that's something you're going to want to try to do. Include a roof overhang or something. Just down about a meter from the standard wall height. And that'll immediately help with your scale. The issue, though, the other side of that coin is that the hard part is hiding that extra meter of wall sometimes. So, like, you could still see it on our building, but this sign does a good job of hiding it, and it felt like architecturally it made sense because our overhang is flat. So all those little things are going into play here to try and get the scale more realistic to what we want with this project. So that's what that is there. And now we're flipping it over. I don't know why this was so hard. It didn't want to line up at all. I had to do it like 7 times, and I don't know why. It just bugged me. Pain in the butt. So, but there we go. We finally get it. But the issue is everything is slid over too far to the right because I'm building, you're building against another building. You don't mind how many things are sinking in there. So had to move some things about, but it wasn't too bad. It was pretty straightforward, pretty easy. And then, so now it's setting ourselves up here. The building, I don't want it to go any bigger than that, but now we have this nice big open area to get to our backstage area. But the problem is it's too wide. I feel like we're not making the best use of our space in this area. And so to compensate for that, after we put in the rest of this backstage fence, boop, boop, and boop, 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 there we go. After we put in the rest of, and I guess the back of the building, we're going to put in another ride. We're going to put in the chair swing. It's a pretty standard fair ride, and it's one of the better scaled rides in the game, so that was one of the easy ones I knew we were going to have it. I figured I'd throw it down near the entrance across from the bumper cars. So once our building is done being detailed here, we will jump into that portion of it. So yeah, so yesterday we had some Parkitect come out, and we also had a City Skylines map come out. Hopefully you've checked those out. If you haven't, I recommend you do that. Especially if you're into City Skylines. I'd like to do a City Skylines series on the channel at some point. It's an intense thing, though. It takes a lot of time and a lot of workshop hunting just to get set up for a series. That's kind of a pain. So I'd like to do it, but I'm not sure I'm going to have the time to do it, honestly. So our paths got all wacky here as I laid in the chair swing. It's because of the exit, and it did something funky, so it made working on the grid here really hard. I ended up having to just undo everything. Yeah, and then instead of putting the exit in first, I put the entrance in first, and that made everything a little bit easier. So I'm putting in the queue now, and I don't like what it does with the paths, but there's only so much you can do, I guess. So working on, I wanted this cover to be, gross. I wanted it to be I guess they tried. A little garish, a little, weirdly detailed, but still flat and ugly. That's kind of what I was going for. And you know what? I think I should keep the default colors for the chair swing. I think I like those colors. The colors I have now, I'm not necessarily feeling them. So I think I'm going to go back in and change those colors to the default. But yeah, just making a really simple cover for this queue. A lot of what I saw in my research is that nothing glamorous about modern day pier parks. They're there to get the ride counts up and keep you covered if it's sunny. And with this bleached filter, it just feels so hot. I love it. I love this filter. I think it's so great. I think the filters are one of the best parts of the new update, actually. The filters and the planters are probably the best parts of the free update, for me at least. I'm going to get a lot of use out of all of those. So there's our queue. Super simple. We'll throw in some more queue lines and all that. And we're going to put the big old done stamp on this one. The nice thing about doing a pier park like this is the rides are so generic and so unthemed. You pretty much just have to plop them down and put a queue in, and you're done. I like that. Now, there are people like Fisherman. He's so good. He themes everything, and he does all those dark rides and stuff. It's super cool. I'm not sure we're going to go that route with this pier. A couple people in the comments have mentioned I need one of those traveling dark rides. My phone. Sorry. I might try to do that, but I have no experience doing dark rides, and I'm afraid it would be a major time suck in something that, in a series that I didn't want to extend too terribly far in the future. I kind of wanted to just go white hot fire with this and get it out and get it done, but we'll see. I don't know. It seems like a thing you kind of need to have in one of these parks. So, can you guess what this is? I'll give you a second. What is this? What is he building? What is he building? What is he building? 3, 2, 1. Place your bets now. It's a condiment cart. We're building a condiment cart. Art shapes were actually too big for the condiment cart, so I had to go ahead and use some of those new signs that came with the Studios DLC. And I was going to try to use the screen mounts, but they weren't doing what I wanted, so I ended up using candy canes, and then I ended up saying, forget all that, I don't want any of that. Because my thought was, I don't know, the reference image I was going off of, I was like, I don't know, it's not really doing it for me. So ketchup and mustard that are way too big, so we shrink them back down, and we even throw in some relish there, and being from Chicago, it's that bright green relish, Chicago dogs. Chicago dogs on a obviously tropical pier. That's what we're going with here. That's what I'm saying we have. Working on getting some dispensers in there and a cute little topper. And I don't know, I was trying to do some cups or something. I might still put some of those in as like trash receptacles. But then I decided to try and make a napkin. This is going to be salt and pepper, but then I'm like, in all my days, I've never seen salt and pepper shakers. They would be little packets. So I say, forget that. Delete them, and we go with a napkin dispenser. This is an idea I've seen. I think Kinderly's done it. I've seen some other people do it. It's really just, it's pretty cool. Like, it doesn't really look all that much like a napkin dispenser, but in situation, it works. It really, like, on its own, you wouldn't know that's a napkin dispenser, but, on the little cart, it's pretty clear what it is. I like when that kind of stuff happens. The Almighty Pipe, Mineral Junction's awesome videos, odes to pipes. Making wonderful, wonderful wheels there. Some of these new vintage garbage cans are really nice too. It's the first time I've started putting them around. You can see here, in order to get the garbage cans where I want, I'm starting to fiddle with like little offshoots of pathing that just kind of dead end, just to get more space to put things in. And that's when I realized that I have a really big dead end right here actually with this flat ride. I need to open this up a little bit. I might go in and fix this a little bit, because I don't like this little curve here where the picnic benches are. I like the picnic benches there, I just don't like the curve there. And then we're going to finally put in some bathrooms. Surfside doesn't have any toilets yet, so it's time we remedy that. And we're going to go ahead and do something very, very similar to what I did, what we did in No Name Landia. There we go. I couldn't remember the name of it. Mike did a bathroom near Ryan's work in Boulder Creek area, and I liked that design, and I did a little tweak on the design. And now, and that restroom, if you look at some of the episodes, it is in Chuchuopolis. It's near the train model train store. I forget the name of it. Gifts and something, I don't know. But anyway, that restroom is the inspiration for this one. I figured I'd just do the same thing, basic same thing, maybe a little deeper. It might be a little bit bigger, a little bit deeper than the one in No Name Landia. And the overhang might be a little bit bigger. Trying to vintage it up just a little bit here with these fancy pillars and stuff. And then it's just a matter of finishing up ye old restroom building. It's funny how it didn't feel like a park, really, until the restrooms went in. Like, you need the dark, the yucky parts to really start to feel like an actual park. Like, having just these super generic bathrooms that they only exist to do the job, to get the job done. They aren't pretty, they aren't fancy, they're just there. And I love that, because it's those things that really make your park start to feel real. And that's always the goal, is to make this feel real. You won't see many fantastic creations from me, many of those super fantasy builds. It's just not what I'm really good at, and not what I want to do with the game. I want to recreate my experiences in theme parks. So I'm super excited actually, because next week it is official. We're going to the Pleasure Pier next week in Galveston, and I can't wait to go. I'm going to make a little vlog of it, and I'm going to meet another RollerCoaster Tycoon / Planet Coaster player there. So that'll be lots of fun. Going to ride Iron Shark and just explore the pier, and hopefully take lots of reference images to bring back with me to put to use here. So that'll be one day next week. It might interrupt the flow of updates. We'll see. I don't really know yet. But you can expect probably next weekend of a vlog of the Galveston Island Pleasure Pier from me, similar in nature to what I did for Fiesta Texas. So yeah, that's coming up next week. It's exciting, getting to be near the end of the summer here. The unfortunate thing is down here in southern Texas, it is like 98, 99 degrees every day with about a gajillion% humidity. You walk outside, you gotta like wade through the air. It's so humid down here. So I don't know how long I'll be able to last at the Pleasure Pier, but it doesn't seem like there's all that much to do. So I think I'm gonna meet my buddy, and we're gonna do some rides, and then I think we're actually gonna go to Bubba Gump's for lunch. Because after building this now, I want to go. So I'm super pumped. That'll be fun. Maybe I'll tweet from the Pleasure Pier and stuff like that. And so yeah, that'll be good times. I didn't have much else. I talked about that now because I absolutely had nothing to talk to you about, because it's a pooper. We're building the bathroom. Got nothing else to say about it. Ye old water fountains. A lot of this is Ryan's doing, inspired off of what Ryan did with his restrooms, and some other people have modified it a little bit. I don't do them enough to be up on all the different ways to make them, so I stick with what I know works. Once the restroom's completed, like it is here, it's a matter of just putting it into... Oh, one thing you could see here is I kept getting stuck onto the building, onto the, quote, building of the flooring. Like, all my doors and windows and stuff were a part of the building that is the actual pier. So I had to keep unselecting them and attaching them to the correct building. It was kind of a pain. And then it's sprucing up the area, throwing in some simple trash cans and stuff. And I thought our opening area here is way too big. We need somewhere for people to buy tickets to ride things, because in these parks it's all pay per ride. So we got that. I went in and pulled out some items that I've built, or I've downloaded some workshop items. You saw me plop down that little octagonal building. But that was built for Jaunty in Pinewood Hills. But I pulled it out of there, and I'm going to put it in the pier. And I'm also going to put in, if you remember, Frequent Fryers, the QSR I made for him. That's going to make an appearance in this park. And we're also going to be using like Mind Gluten and all those Bro Coaster brand names in this park. I also got an awesome brewery from somebody they built for Surfside, so we're going to be putting that outside the pier. And I've got a lot of the games and all that kind of stuff that go, a lot of workshop items from Fisherman and Mineral Junction and Ruble Trillions and all those awesome items that will fit really well here. So you're going to be seeing lots of that stuff. So we're at the end of the episode here. I hope you've enjoyed. If you have, hit that like button. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please consider doing so. Have yourself a great day, great night, great whatever. And I will see all you for the next episode of Surfside Pleasure Pier. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.